public hearing for September 18th, 2017. On the agenda is proposed conditional use to allow fitness center in the B2 district. So this isn't the regular meeting, this is the public hearing part of the area. I guess we should probably do a roll call.
Sure. Mr. Posar?
Here.
Mr. Schiavone?
Here.
Mr. Westbrook?
Here.
Mr. Villada?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here. All right. Who are you guys with?
Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness and where they actually.
That's Pat Law.
Put them in here to see if we should have public comment.
Probably relatives.
That's my cousin, first cousin.
Now we'll close this.
I used to play a lot of tennis with me.
Yeah, he's a good tennis player.
Boy, I just made it. Swing vote.
Yeah. Right, right.
Keep your commandments.
Yeah, what's going on there, huh? Yeah, there's a lot there.
Which is the public area? Which one's that? Is there a public area?
Yeah,
The B2? Yeah. The old Sears building, right? Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah.
All right, it doesn't look like anyone's coming in for the public hearing. Does anyone make a motion to close it?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. Get started. We're going to be just 10 minutes.
Gentlemen.
Hello. Good. Good to see you.
Hose on? Hey, that park looks nice.
Thank you. Yeah, go.
Joe's on. How are you?
I'm Pat Valado.
Pat, nice to meet you. Joe Gelati, city engineer. How you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Hey, how are you? Good. I'm taking over here.
Hey, we got all this room. Go for it, man. I don't care.
I've like completely taken all your space.
That's all right. You're the most important guy.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
after the chairman.
No, that's B1. Yeah, we can designate private recreation as a conditional use in the B1 district. Well, it's zone B2, because we have this including sort of style of zoning. What's allowed in B1 is allowed in B2. So if you follow back to B1, it would be a similar use determination. Commission to do that and designate a conditional use. And if we get to the same end result, then I think we have to do similar use designation first.
I'm usually early.
In B2, I don't see how we get
So B2 doesn't apply, that's another.
recreational uses as conditional permitted.
I was gonna come up earlier, but I got tied up and
B2, right?
I'll see you and have you come and show me how to get into the ordinances and define section 900.
I can show you upstairs afterwards if you want. I can show you on the computer how to
You
get
can make a
it.
similar use determination, and you can make it be a conditional
I
zone.
don't think I've ever done it through the city website,
Which
but I know I have it on my computer.
Yeah.
I'm sure
You
it's
can get into
easy.
the
I
web.
did
Sure, it's
it,
easy.
so that's why I did it, because I was looking for those things, and was reading through the
Yeah.
comments.
It does.
And I can't
I
find
just got to do
it.
something on the website. Mine got it.
Yeah, it's on there for
Well,
everybody.
it's not, it's similar to what's in
But it wasn't, it was just,
B2 back to
it was the codified ordinances? Is that what,
It's
section
crazy.
900, was it part of
It's an
it?
old style of
No,
zone.
not part of this.
It's just city ordinance.
I think so.
B2 says all uses.
Well, it had all of, I think it had all of them on there.
Anything in this one can be in B2.
I see.
I think it.
Oh, the index showed everything.
So what I'm saying is you can make a similar use determination because it's allowed in B2. You can have this be allowed in B2 as a conditional zone. That's my comment.
Never appreciated the complexity of this book. A lot of it was data dumped from Summit County. I remember when I was on the city council when we formed our own building department. A lot of the stuff was boilerplate pretty much.
They adopted the presidential code of Ohio.
Yeah, Summit County,
Yeah,
but the building codes of
Yeah,
Ohio.
you use the switches. Yeah, you use it. Political party, you have to use that code. That's standard throughout the state.
Right. You have to at least comply to that. We could be more strict than that, but we have to at least comply to the state.
You have to go. I don't think you can ask more. You would. You can't force it.
You know until Brian tells you.
They want to do more. You
Right,
can't.
because you gotta,
Cannot.
You can encourage them to do it.
Or you can try to persuade them that
The mayor is a master
and
at
that's,
that.
that's, I mean, this is.
Yeah, right.
Stonehenge.
What do you about Brian's theory here?
Yeah. So,
Of allowing visitors to take over that space. Somehow we gotta figure out how to do that. He wanted to use this section. Of course, that has to do with B1.
Well,
That's not very much.
He says he would do something similar to this, uses not listed, but which are comparable. They don't have a clause like that in B2, but nonetheless, maybe we can use it. I don't know. We can get away with it. Much better than the vacant building, which is there.
Well, yeah, but still, yeah. But this looks.
Here, it's like
See, they ought to have a clause like that in B2. Uses not listed, but which are comparable. Comparable, I'd say.
I remember
Compatible. That's the word we use in Hudson, is
some of
compatible.
the regulations and stuff that we were working through. They had these committees that form
Well,
similar.
what they usually do is copy everybody else's, so that's probably what happened. Copy similar clauses.
Electrical.
They spent a lot of time on it.
The members of the committee were so Westinghouse and GE. You'd think that Phillips.
1999, I see. No, 82, 90.
Yeah, every section has a different language.
It would be nice to have that little clause in there, and that'd be used. Compatible.
It's impossible. If you're a black and white guy, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, you could argue it's a club. You know. Sort of a club.
Already had a,
You have to join it.
in that same shopping complex, we had a physical therapy.
Oh, did they?
Basically the same
Yeah.
thing, the same machinery and the same kind of stuff.
Well, our club that I belong to, the Macedonia club, has all the same stuff too.
But I mean, this was in the same classes, so it was a
Physical therapy.
therapy had B2.
I did what Susan did.
That would be under professional medical.
I thought I brought a copy of that with me. and I didn't. That's
Condition.
fine, perfect.
That's a little curious.
It's professional medical and administrative office.
Yeah.
This was actually a gym.
Oh, was it? Is that all it was?
That's all it was.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Physical therapy.
Nothing to do.
Different machines and stuff. So.
Yeah. Weird they'd allow a bowling alley. You know? What's the difference?
Call to order the September 18th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Here.
Mr. Cosar?
Here.
Mr. Westbrook?
Here.
Mr. Cubone?
Here.
Mr. Valado?
Here.
All right. First item on our agenda is approval of July 17, 2017 minutes. Mr. Bellata and I cannot vote through or not here, but we do have the other three can. You guys have got a chance to look at those.
Yeah.
Comments or anything?
Make a motion to approve.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we've got the August 21st, 2017 minutes. All of us can vote on.
Well, no, I wasn't here.
Oh, you were here. All right, almost all of us. Anyone have any comments?
Oh, go ahead.
Go, I'll just ask.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, first will be Kurt Schmitz, ADA Architects, proposing conditional use to allow a fitness center in B2 district. Come on up.
Can we sit down?
Yes, please. Go ahead and give a little overview, and then we've got some comments from staff.
Okay. We're talking about the old Sears space, the corner of Crow and Aurora Road. It comes out to 24,992 square foot. I'm here tonight representing Planet Fitness. This is Armando. He's with he's the Planet Fitness franchisee. We typically have probably done 35 Planet Fitnesses. They've always gone into retail centers. We've never been excluded out of it, so it's a little bit of a surprise for us to not be one of the approved uses. And I just kind of want to say that up front, and that we're not asking anything unique from other cities or municipalities where we go. We function very much like a retail use. We're 30, 40-minute stays. We're quick hits. We don't do, we're cardio workouts, weightlifting. We don't do swimming pools, childcare, karate programs, Pilates, planking. It's a pretty straight out. You come in, you do your cardio, your workout, and take off. We've gone through the program. We're very comfortable with this site. I know there was initially some conversation about the parking. We've gone through those calculations and we've resolved all those issues. Your zoning, however, in a B1 allows clubs. In a B2, it doesn't really mention anything that could potentially be a fitness. B3s, it goes to recreational, which tend to be much larger complexes than what we are. And like I said, we've gone every Planet Fitness I've ever done has gone into a retail center. So beyond that, if there's any questions, we can explain or comments.
Maybe you mentioned that I missed it. What are the hours, Planet Fitness, what do they run?
24?
It's 24 hour, okay, just curious. Okay, we've got some staff comments. Brian, you want to go over your?
Sure. Really my comments primarily relate to the use issue, and I do talk about the parking and would concur that the number of spaces is adequate based on the provided plan, which outlines all the square footage in the retail plaza, and the applicant accurately takes that total square footage and divides it by 250 square feet, so one space for every 250 square feet, or 4 per 1,000. And in the code, that's allowable for large developments which have a building frontage of at least 100 feet or greater. In this case, this plaza does. So the 1 to 250 is accurate, and I believe the amount of parking is adequate for this, for the whole plaza, and in particular this use. So with that said, the biggest issue is how do you get to allowing the use? And I would agree with the applicant. This is the type of use that seems to fit in most appropriate in a community shopping district, as we call it, the B2 district. So if you look in that district, you don't readily see this type of a use identified. Now, when the code speaks to club or lodge or fraternal organization, that's really speaking to things like a Masonic lodge or VFW. It's an old sort of language and zoning So that's what that's referring to. These quick fitness uses are sort of a newer anomaly, certainly much newer than our zoning code. And so in the B2 district, our code references back to the B1 district. If you look at 116703B1A, and that refers back to the B1 district. And so basically what it's doing is the code set up that says anything that's allowed in B1 is allowed in B2. There's actually a term in zoning, it's called Euclidean zoning. It's an old form or old style of zoning which relates to the zoning code because it's a little older in its nature. And so if you go to B1 and you go under 116702 B17, it gives the Planning Commission authority to make what we call a similar use designation. And so tonight the agenda published this as a conditional zoning certificate, which requires a public hearing. I would agree that the commission can designate this particular use as a conditional use, and so we get to the same result, and that was the public hearing tonight. But to do that, I think the commission needs to make a similar use determination under 116702 B17. And so what I would encourage the commission to do is to, as a separate motion, make a similar use determination, and I think it's most appropriate to do that. I've opined in my memo that from a similar use perspective, Planet Fitness is a general commercial or personal service use with respect to hours of operation, traffic, and impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The use closely aligns with the purpose of the B2 district, which states, and I summarize, but it's the district is created to provide shopping areas serving the municipality and convenient to residential areas. I think that this use definitely aligns with that part of the purpose of the B2 district. So if the commission agrees, again, they can designate private recreational uses as a conditional use in the B1 district, which effectively then allows it in the B2 district because of the style of zoning that the code is written in. Again, this Euclidean style, which references whatever's allowed in B1 is allowed in B2. You would just be designated as a conditionally permitted use, which would require a site plan, which the applicants provided, documentation that off-street parking can be met, which the applicant has provided. There may be other things, and I know the zoning inspector is working with the applicant on the conditions of the parking lot. Sounds like that's going to be repaired. The building owner, not the applicant, but the building owner is going to make improvements to the parking lot, seal coat it, restripe it, which are all good things to do and really are property maintenance violations that need to be cured, and can be cured actually, quite frankly, as part of this process as well. So if the commission designates this as a conditionally permitted use and approves this use, they could do it subject to the parking lot being brought up to the current standard. And so then the applicant is really tied to the building or property owner insofar as making the parking lot up to code. It sounds like the property owner is already planning to do that. It's just a second method, or one that provides the city with some more concrete way, no pun intended, more concrete way of being able to ensure compliance with that particular property maintenance violation. Now, I probably confused everybody, including the audience.
Only me a little bit. Or at least I'll be the first to admit it. So,
That's a good question.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it that way. I think we'd like to do this, rather have an empty building there. I think it'd be wonderful, but it does seem like a convoluted way to do it in a way. I don't quite know what you mean by the Euclidean, that 6702 would also apply to this. That's some kind of case law or something.
Well, it's a style of zoning that says what's allowed in one district's allowed in another. So the premise is that the B1 district is the least restrictive, the most restrictive district,
right,
with the most benign uses in that district. And so therefore, if it's a more benign or not so difficult district onto the neighboring community, then those uses should be allowed in a more restricted.
Some sort of case law or something, right? Is that what you're thinking?
It's just how the zoning's written. And it's just that title Euclidean it's a Euclid style zoning.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
came out of case law back in the
Yeah.
50s and 60s.
But you know, I kind of like you said, well, the 116703 B2 Community Shopping District, you said club, lodge, and fraternal organization means something like the Elks. It doesn't have to mean that. You know, the club, lodge, a lot of them are, have facilities and they charge dues and all that stuff, just like Planet, the applicant does. So I like that even, I would even I'd think about that one, just the more easier way to get in there. But I would vote for either way, of course. But I just kind of curious the fact that you said that club and lodge means something like the Elks or the Moose or something like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It doesn't say that.
I think it does. I think that club and lodge are tied to fraternal organizations in the way the language is written. And from a zoning perspective, and I know I'm going to say you got to trust me, but that's what it means from a zoning perspective.
Well, okay, all right.
And so, and again, that's an older style of language that you see in old zoning codes.
Right.
And I don't think the commission can make that interpretation. I think the zoning inspector can make that interpretation, and that could be appealed to the Board of Zoning Appeals, or the Board of Zoning Appeals could also make that clarification, but I don't know that the commission can.
Oh, no, I'm just curious about how the whole thing seems sort of difficult, but I'd vote for it either way.
It's very difficult. I would agree with that. It's very complicated and it's difficult, and I knew I'd confuse everybody when we talked about it tonight.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
If B2 is more restrictive than B1, and B3 is more restrictive than B2, and B3 allows it.
B1 is more restrictive and allows what I would call benign or less impactful uses to the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay.
B2 is less restrictive, and B3 opens it up.
Oh, the other way, it goes
Yeah.
the other way. So B3 is less restrictive, not more restrictive.
Correct, yeah.
Because it specifically, B3 specifically says recreational facility.
Correct. It does.
But
It
there's
says
so much overlap
recreational
when I read
facilities.
all of them there. A lot of the same words are in all.
They are. And if you look at that B3, it says recreational facilities.
Yeah.
But if you then cross-reference to the LI district, it says private recreational facilities.
I see.
So I would argue if I were placed in a position to have to write a zoning brief or a legal argument on behalf of a private developer, I would say that recreational facilities means a public recreational facility, like our own City of Macedonia recreational facility. And private recreational facilities are clearly distinctive in the code and mean something different, like this gentleman's proposal.
Okay.
It's there's some things that probably need to be cleaned up, in the code, I would say. But at the end of the day, I think we get to the same result. This particular use makes sense in a B2 district, I believe, and can be achieved through a similar use determination as a conditionally permitted use in the B2 district.
Fine.
So does it make sense? So we'd be saying, if everybody agrees, that something like Planet Fitness, the private recreation facility, would be a similar use in a B1, if we say it. If that, then because of the code, then would be allowed in B2 as well.
Right.
Does that make sense to
I think
everybody?
that's true.
Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Do they agree with that? That's a similar use?
I agree with that, but I do have another concern before we actually take a vote on something, and that is the fact that it's going to be over 24 hours a day. Is that my understanding?
Yes,
7 days a
staff.
week, or?
It is.
Okay. My concern with that is the fact that we have residential butting up against that building, and it's been a problem in the past with noise and stuff. And we do have actual noise restrictions. I know there's no windows on the back, but there's several doors that face the residential area. If there's going to be music or noise, you know.
Yeah, so good news, typically, we don't do any noise outside the buildings.
Well, I know.
So we don't play the radio, we're not a bar, we don't do a late activity, and I don't even know what kind of business you do in the wee hours of the morning. It's more for the very early riser that wants to get the workout in before work, and the late guy that comes in on an odd shift. The other thing, the loading dock, Sears probably make deliveries throughout the course of those being those guys.
So there was restrictions against when they.
Yeah, we don't have a loading dock use. We are not taking deliveries. We're not stocking the place up in the middle of the night. So this will get a lot quieter in the neighborhoods. And again, we're a totally internal focused. You know, the
Right,
crowds.
summertime, doors can get blocked open and.
Yeah,
voices
we're
and
not
voices
an
and stuff here.
external entertainment whatsoever. I mean, it's all an internal focus. I think we'll be a quieter operation than what Sears was.
Would be, we
By-
want that on the record that
leaps
you've
and
been
bounds.
duly notified that.
Absolutely.
That you may not be there when someone holds that, blocks that door open in, in a nice summer evening or night or something like that, we get the complaints.
I don't even think you can do this.
All of these complaints. But, thank you, that's all I have.
There was also a memo from fire, basically just saying that business, place an assembly use A3, the building will be reviewed to meet all current codes, basically, use group wants to do
The only question I would have.
Sure, oh, please, yes.
The tying of the landlord work with the tenant work, I was a little confused on how those two work. I'm always very cautious, and a lot of times we'll develop an entire center, and we get separate permits for each one of the tenants and a separate permit for the landlord, so that the landlord's lack of performance couldn't affect the Planet Fitness opening. I know we're hitting close to winter, so the pavement's gonna shut down. We obviously wanna open up prior to winter, January. So are those tied together? I mean, I like making the landlord fix up the parking lots, so I think I'm on the wrong side of it.
That's a problem.
However, tying the two together to where, could we still open if the landlord's work isn't done?
So it's a really, for me, I'm trying to protect the city's best interest, and I understand you guys have you have to protect your own best interest, but, so I don't think it's advisable that the city not tie it together. This is the opportunity at a permit level to say it's gotta be done, and the zoning inspector just informed me that it's already past due, and the property owner's saying, well, I'm not gonna do it until I get a tenant in there. It's the chicken and the egg scenario.
Isn't there any way you can say, look, you're getting your tenant, I mean, put the heavy on them and not the tenant?
So you're the applicant, unfortunately, so you're here and you're asking for a permit which requires performance standards under our zoning code. And one of those performance standards ties to a property maintenance issue with the parking lot is apparently in bad shape. And so the opportunity for this group to be able to cure that problem is through your conditionally permitted use. So they can tie it to that. Now, it sounds like from talking to the zoning inspector that the property owner has agreed that when he gets a tenant, he'll fix the parking lot. There's plenty of time. The asphalt plants will close late October into the beginning of November. So there's plenty of time to get it
I don't know
done.
how booked up they are. And again,
They should be
I would love
probably,
to say, look, landlord, you gotta have this done by X amount of date, which would allow us to get our opening before January and make sure this board has the authority, if it's not done by
sure.
April, May, June, whenever the plants reopen. And trust me, we'll be on the landlord to get it paid for our opening, because we want to look nice when we open as well. However, should the landlord fail in their duties, I would just hate to penalize the tenant who's geared up for the winter business. But would certainly say, hey, if it's not done by June, whatever happens to the landlord can happen to the landlord.
Yeah.
I mean, we want it done
Unfortunately,
too.
unfortunately, what happens to the landlord's gonna happen to you because, so that what, playing out with what you just said, I would be supportive of that as a recommendation to the city, to say, well, you have till June 1st to get it done. The problem is, if the landlord doesn't get it done, your permit gets revoked and you're kicked out.
Yeah, and see, I'm trying to separate the.
And I'm trying to marry them.
I know.
Right, to protect the
So isn't there any
city.
way we can do it without the tenant being at risk for the landlord's default?
Sounds like you guys have spoken to the landlord a few
James
times.
McKinney. Yes, he was issued a letter, dead trees, parking lot. He did patch the holes, but, I mean, it needs to be sealed, needs to be striped. And he basically said that he will not do any of the work until he gets a tenant. He said he has no money. So,
Which is always, you know, sort of the common answer, you know, we don't have cash flow, so we can't do it. You know, the commission could, if they were inclined to approve this evening, they could approve it subject to that work being completed by November 1st, and it puts the property owner in an aggressive position to have to get it completed. And it gives the city some sense that, you know what, we think Planet Fitness is a fit here, and we'll allow them, but you gotta get these problems cured, and so it motivates the property owner.
And I'm good, and I appreciate that.
Wouldn't you have a clause in your lease or something, there's some kind of holdback on rent if they don't do what they're supposed to do, you're a landlord?
Is there still time for that? Because I know leases.
Yeah, but you could have an addendum that, you know, there might be a problem there that your permit, well, I don't.
I mean, I like it.
So can the work go on concurrent, or, I mean?
The work can go on concurrent. The problem is if they don't come through and get it done, the building department won't give you your C of O. So you'll have a heavy investment sitting in Planet Fitness that's going to sit empty for 3-4 months until winter's over and the plant's
And
reopen.
unfortunately, this is, I believe, happened before with this particular landlord. It's been done the same way. You have to.
Did they come through then?
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing about it too, or else I would have came in.
No, this landlord in particular has been a problem over the years. When I was in the building department, that was 8 years ago, that was a problem.
Okay.
It's a constant issue. And
Is
the
there-
only leverage we have is to
Nail it down.
do this.
Is there any way we can give them till June 1st?
That's
Do you
entirely
even want
up
to do
to
that, or do you want to force them to get it done before you're open?
You're better off.
This is news to me. I mean, I would have had the landlord also attend the meeting, because, I mean, I thought, you know, I don't know what the city's already spoken to him about paving, but there's no paving in my lease at all. So, I mean, timeline is of the essence for me to be open right before the busy year, which is January, February. So, like, I would literally have to start construction immediately.
That's why the November 1st deadline would be but yes, unfortunately, you're caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, but the November 1st deadline would probably cause me to talk to landlord to possibly leave, because it wouldn't allow me to open until March. And that would
So
be
he told you, he told us they would fix it if they think, so we approved it under the condition that the parking lot's fixed by November 1st. Then he doesn't have the excuse if there's not income coming in, because we've already approved it. Okay, but it has to be done by November 1st.
But would I be, I mean,
But yeah, that's what,
if you're telling me I can't start until November 1st, and
Do you mean start for your fit out?
correct.
Oh, yeah.
You could start your fit out anytime.
So the C of O is going to be the hang-up.
Yeah, it's gonna be your occupancy permit. You can work on your tenant space improvements. It effectively forces the property owner to do what he's supposed to do, which is improve the lot up to the code standard. And you could be doing your work in the meantime. You could go back to him and say, hey, you know, the city's not gonna grant me occupancy until you get this cleaned up. They've said that, hypothetically, assuming the commission approves this, they said that it's approved, provided you clean up your property. So go get it cleaned up, or I'm walking away and taking my investment elsewhere. I mean, I can't, do those negotiations for you, but that's something I would be saying if I were in your
Right, but
position.
you're saying if there's approval tonight, then I could start construction because the plans have already been approved.
Yeah,
I think
we
you
need
still
to
have
see
your
it.
building department process, and I don't
Right.
know where they stand with that, but, yeah.
You would have to do.
Yeah, actually, the building department already issued all the payments for what each permit would already cost. And we actually didn't even know there was an issue at all until the contractor came down to receive the permit, so.
So is it November 1 or December 1? November 1 is 6 weeks away. Well, I'm not against that. Put the heat on them, get it done.
Well, he's not gonna do much
Yeah.
paving after November 15th, for sure.
Yeah, I know, but we're late in the season and
Yeah.
they do get booked. And there's
Does
a
he
lot of
already-
stress.
Does it just have to be sealed, or are we talking paving?
Right, does the landlord already know to what extent?
He has to, if it has to be reinstalled, the asphalt, or just sealed. I'm not an asphalt expert.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't.
You can do sealing in one weekend, I mean,
To seal,
Okay, all right, yeah, I haven't seen the violation letter,
Is the
so I'm
violation
not.
sealing?
seal and
Seal and
strike.
strike?
So that's what the landlord knows, he's in violation of.
James McKinney, I believe, is the landlord, and he knows, he was issued the violation
And
letter.
quite frankly, if they couldn't get it done, it would be beholden on them to come back before this board and ask for another month, right? I want to get it done too, that's why I'm thinking November 1's not a bad deal. If the landlord can't get it done, they would need to come back to this board and say, look, here's our contract, we're scheduled to get it done, can we get a 1 month extension? Would that, or no?
I could probably, I'm being facetious, so let me warn you ahead of time. I could probably send my 17-year-old in with 2 of his friends and seal it and strike it in a weekend.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, if that's all the violation is, they could cure that pretty quickly.
And that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's some dead trees that have to be taken down. I asked them to plant some, actually some perennials
Hmm.
for what had died on the property. And I mean, the mayor told me to get in there and get that cleaned up, and that's why they were issued the letter. This is probably back in June.
From our side, we didn't know there was any violation at all, so the paving and sealing, if they have agreed to do that, I don't see that being an issue.
It's pretty easy, and the landscape stuff's pretty easy too.
Do they have to come in, do a landscaping plan, come before this board, AVR, do any of that stuff that's going to add to their timeline?
You know, if it's just replacing dead vegetation,
It's under
no
a violation rather.
required.
Okay.
So at this point, I would think that there's stuff, they're just replacing the landscaping that was already
All right.
in existence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand, I'm just, as much
Yeah.
as I can,
Then
trying to watch the business.
we don't have too many situations like this in the city of the seven.
Okay. All right.
You got any more questions here?
Well, I think, I was just gonna say, I was gonna personalize it. If I have a problem with my driveway and the city comes out and says, you gotta fix this, and I say, I don't have any money, I'm not doing it. What happens? I get fined, or it goes on my tax duplicate, or can't the city tell this guy, this landowner, you are in violation, you've been in violation, and if you don't, here's what happens.
Yeah. You can be taken to court. So I haven't looked,
Why have
most
the
likely
laws,
it's a
why have
criminal
it if we don't
violation.
enforce them, you know?
I'm sorry?
I said, why have it on the books if we don't enforce it then?
Yeah, I would think mayor's court would probably be the.
Right.
the enforcement.
All right, just asking.
We're going to push this.
Not as bad as it is, exactly. That's what it comes down to.
There'll be
If
a
he wants
call
his
place
money,
tonight,
he's
yeah.
gotta do something that's gonna take maybe 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the parking lot or not, but if you drive the parking lot, there really is no striping, so, it's to your benefit to have some designated parking spaces for your clients, I'm sure,
I
yeah.
actually understand that. I didn't know there was aware of any violation. As long as, if you guys give me the use and I can start construction immediately, and the landlord, and you won't give me a CO until that's done, then that's.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing, that's up to the commission.
But as far as these folks are concerned, we're saying we don't have any clout with the landowner. We tell him you've got till November 1st or December 1st, and if he doesn't do anything, They're left holding the bag, right?
Yeah, if you, at 113704, your conditional zoning certificate requirements, you have a lot of clout with this applicant
You're right.
to enforce standards for the property. The applicants then, and that's
I
binding
understand.
on the owners. of
I
the
think I'm getting the
property
drift
as well.
now.
So they're married.
The size of the
Make us do it.
investment.
Seal it. Seal it and take it out of your rent.
I wouldn't think so.
The size of the investment, if the violation is a ceiling and striping line, it will be done.
Yeah, and so in the future, remove some dead vegetation and plant some new stuff. It's pretty cheap.
Brian.
And again, I would like to see it done before the grand goes.
Yeah.
You're done too.
Yeah, right.
We'd have to get 1099 because of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you see this as being a two-part thing, we've got to make conditional, or the similar use determination, and then a second motion for the conditional use permit.
I do. I think that the majority of the commission have to concur that you find it to be acceptable as a similar use being conditionally permitted. And then once you establish that, then the commission would then have to act on that conditional request, which is what we came here for tonight anyhow.
Okay, so if you guys feel that way, you know, probably, maybe I'll make the motion, unless there's more discussion. Make a motion of a similar use determination to allow private recreational use in the B1, and that it, you know, aligns closely with the purpose of the B2, or should it be the B1 district? Which is to provide shopping areas serving the municipality and convenient to residential areas. Basically, what this Ryan. You can have this.
I'll put it right on here.
Okay. And Brian, do you think it's appropriate to include all that language that you?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And it gives you some, fallback to be able to go back to your professional planner's opinion.
Motion for a similar use determination. To allow private recreation. B1
As a conditional
as
use.
a conditional use in B1.
To allow conditional use.
Of private recreation.
In B1.
Yes. That's probably.
Sufficient?
Well, you may want to include this just in the documented reasons to use. Closely aligns with the purpose, district or states.
Brian, is that distinctive just to this case, or would that set a precedence then for any kind of regular? Is that locking in then for future?
That effectively amends the code
code?
to allow it as a conditionally permitted use in the B1 district. It's a reasonably powerful and effective tool from a zoning perspective, similar use determinations.
It's okay. This is a long.
You're gonna have to read that. I wanna know what I'm voting on. If it took that long to write it.
It's a lot.
It's
I
mouthful.
think this is the longest one.
Yeah, right.
Is this to motion to approve or just motion similar use to allow? Motion for similar use?
Motion for similar use determination. So the motion for similar use determination to allow conditional use of private recreation in B1. The use aligns closely with the purpose of the B2 district, which states that the district is created to provide shopping at areas serving the municipality and convenience to residential areas. That's the motion.
Second.
All right.
Kevin, could I ask a clarification?
Yes.
It seems to be talking about a B2 district, if you're talking about B1.
No.
Well, I guess that is a question, Brad. Is that, should that say B1 or B2?
Well, actually, you can read both to be safe, B1
Okay.
and B2.
Okay, maybe we'll say B1 and B2 in that part right there. Or say B2. Yeah, B1
One
and
and
B2
B2.
district. Okay.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Lyon. All right, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's half there.
Half of it,
Is that
right?
half of it?
The
Yeah.
other part is to approve the conditional use permit. So I'm going to make that motion.
I'd so move to approve the conditional use permit in the B2 district by the applicant.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
So now we tied it all together.
We
This
didn't
on here too.
really,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you didn't.
we didn't do anything with it.
Pardon?
We didn't do anything with it. We didn't tie it all together.
We didn't?
No.
I thought we did. I thought you
The
said
motion was-
B1 and B2, you said.
No,
Your
we didn't-
motion.
We didn't tie the parking lot.
Oh, pardon.
Anything to it with the
No,
motion.
I should be added conditional.
All right, we're out, thank you.
I'll get the landlord.
Oh, I understand.
We'll fix it.
Well, yeah, doing this area of attention.
Yeah, we didn't do anything about the parking lot.
And again,
that's-
the sizable investment, I'm not gonna want it to be.
But I already know the answer to that.
Well, yeah, hopefully you can help us with that. That was, yeah, oversight in our case.
Well, of course, the commission, technically under parliamentary procedures, the commission has till the end of the meeting to pull a motion off a table and react on it. So you could do that. You could eliminate the motion you just made regarding the conditional zoning certificate and make a new one if you so choose.
I would like to recommend that, not to penalize you guys, but based on past history here. You guys don't want to be in here 5 years from now and still not have a parking lot that's lined. That's
A
just my,
sizable investment for 5 years, it would never obtain that, so.
you know.
So you want to add the parking lot under the condition that the parking lot's done by November
Because
1st?
we are approving the parking also. When we're approving conditional use, we're approving the parking, that the spaces meet the requirement for that usage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
that, we're approving the whole thing.
Approving the whole
That's what we would-
thing, and part of that is the maintenance on it, is the parking lot meeting the standards that it's supposed to
So is that to be a motion to withdraw?
Yeah.
The motion?
So what I would recommend doing is the person who made the motion, the person who seconded, would make a similar motion to rescind and then vote it on, and then you would make a new motion, if you so choose, to
Yeah,
add a
withdraw.
condition to your conditional zoning certificate that that states that the parking lot has to be sealed and striped pursuant to the enforcement violation actively pursued by the city by X. If you want to add dead vegetation in there, you could add that as well. That's the beauty of a conditional zoning certificate, you get to add conditions. Whether it's in the applicant's property or otherwise, it's a use that's in front of the commission, and this is your opportunity to do that. Cure a problem that exists.
How does that pertain to going forward, landlord violations?
be.
So-
It'll stop you from moving, getting your permits and going ahead and doing your.
Well, I'm saying 2 years from now, there's a landlord violation.
Then it's a different it's a different process. It's strictly a court matter.
You'll be out of it.
It's strictly a court matter at that point.
We all agree that it's a good use. And we all agree that we want the
Parking lot to be taken.
owner to take care of that parking lot and stripe it and seal it and all that. Why don't we just say that?
Okay, well, let's,
I mean, in those words,
okay, I'll make a motion to rescind the approval, the conditional zoning certificate approval.
Second.
All right, so make a new motion to approve the conditional zoning certificate with condition that the parking lot must be sealed and striped to meet the cited violation by the building department. It's taken care of by November 1st, or November, we said November 1st? We said
you like
November 1st.
December 1st, but want to get, no.
Well, should we go with December 1st? Just,
Well,
it doesn't, it almost doesn't.
If it's, if it gives them more time.
Yeah,
It's not paving, it's sealing and striping.
Yeah, to Mr. Chavon's point, though, they're still going to need temperature to seal and to stripe, so
You gotta be
maybe
above
November
50 degrees or
15th, let's split the difference there, because after November 15th, he's likely not to have temperature to perform either of those two items.
So it's November 15th.
Did we vote on the rescission? I don't think so.
That's true. All in favor of the rescission?
Aye.
Okay, now the motion that I made to approve the conditional zoning certificate with the condition that it is sealed and striped as per the zoning, for the cited violation to be completed by November 15th, 2017.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sorry about that extra step there. All right, so it should be good.
Yeah, since we're here, we
Oh, yeah.
had Aaron take the night off. We're gonna
Yes.
go through the sign.
Yes. Signage for the planning statements.
So that won't affect me receiving my permit now.
No, I think as long as you're in position to get the permit through the building department, it should not. It gives them the ability to issue it now that the commission is opined that the use is acceptable. Yeah. But what it does do is it locks up your certificate of occupancy until
Correct.
that's cured.
Lots of his. That you're not gonna pay
You
him.
don't have to take the paper clip off unless you're going to look at it.
He's not gonna jump it
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't think so.
Anyone? Oh, that's how you do it?
I guess what we're doing is you just want to give us a quick overview of the
Yeah.
signage.
Very quick overview, we're not asking for any variances. With Planet Fitness, we're proposing one wall sign on Aurora Road, and we're proposing a sign panel on each one of the existing monument signs. Everything is within the square footage allowance. I think I calculated you guys allow 2 square foot per lineal foot of storefront, which gave us 352 square feet. This is coming in at 214. I think one of the wall panel signs was 6 square foot, some change, and one was 5 and 6 square foot change. So we're pretty well under. We sized the sign to fit the element, the existing element that's there. It's individually, internally illuminated, signs for the details that we've submitted. So any questions whatsoever?
Purple your color, kind of. Is that Planet Fitness's color?
Yes, it is, purple and yellow,
Yeah.
white and black.
Uh-huh.
And those are the actual plexiglass piece, and that's the actual film.
Is there comments? Go ahead.
I have, yeah, so I have a report regarding the signage. I didn't realize that was actually purple. So, in terms of overall area, the sign is acceptable, as the applicant pointed out, but there are some issues as it relates to the approved sign criteria for Alexandria Square. I'm not sure if the applicant received that sign criteria or has got it from the property owner. My guess is no. That's correct?
Correct.
You did not get it? Okay. So there's a few things. In the Exhibit B to the approved sign criteria, there's a number of standards that have to be met. First, the overall height of the sign can't exceed 48 inches. The logo is 8.33 feet tall, so there's obviously a glaring problem there. The Planet Fitness portion is 7 feet tall. You can go on 2 lines of copy, but again, it's supposed to be a max of 48 inches, 4 feet tall. The logo contains white letters with a yellow thumb. The thumb is yellow. The white letters are permissible with the Planning Commission's approval, but the yellow proposed for the thumb is not permitted. And then the trim caps, this is pretty minor in comparison, but the trim caps are proposed to be vinyl and metal is required. Then the ground monument signage, the inserts, same thing. The background for the inserts need to be a light color and the lettering has to be red. In this case, the background is proposed as yellow, as are the 2 letters in the logo. So that's also an issue. So in order to go forward, either the applicant will revise the sign request or seek a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Yeah, those are really the two choices. The commission can't alter those. That was something that was,
Come back in next month.
the sign criteria for Alexandria Square was developed and approved in 1997 through the Planning Commission and the Mayor's office, and agreed upon by the property owner at that time. Looks like Darrell Siebert II. Alexandria Square joint venture.
The landlord actually approved the signage with me first.
So my guess is the landlord they're new. So when did do we have any idea when they purchased this particular building?
I'm not aware of when they purchased.
So whoever Darrell Siebert and Robert Bramer are, they agreed to and approved sign criteria for all of Alexandria Square. And that sign criteria can't be altered by the Planning Commission. And again, that was in May of '97.
So am I correct in that we meet your zoning?
No,
No.
you're incorrect.
We don't meet yours either?
Our zoning, the city of
Because it
Macedonia,
adopts Alexander Squares.
the city of Macedonia's zoning code allows for a property owner to
Come up with their own.
have their
standards.
own sign criteria that's approved by the city through the commission.
Okay.
And how it's supposed to work then is
We go
if you meet those criteria, the building commissioner can approve them administratively
Okay.
without coming to the planning commission.
Gotcha.
But when they vary from the criteria, then they come to the planning commission. The planning commission tells you you can't do it. You either got to correct it or take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. France, when Sears was in there, they have to go through all this, or do they get an exemption because they're a national chain?
There's no exemption for national chain. I'm
Well,
assuming. they went through-
Walmart, for instance, we make deals with Walmart or something.
We didn't make any deals with Walmart. There's criteria for the Macedonia Commons as well. Those criteria may be different than Alexandria Square.
So Sears had to qualify exactly. with
I'm
the-
assuming they did back when they came in. Because the way it says the sign face themselves, the sign faces themselves are supposed to be red with the raceway color to match the background, or the letters Or the letters may be a second color, so you can have red and you can have a second color if the background is a contrasting color with different colors approved by the commission. So you're limited to two colors total.
So if the, can the landlord amend what their sign criteria with the plaza?
They can request that to be amended through the mayor's office and the planning commission.
Do you guys, do you mirror those? Is this community a two-color sign, or do you guys, I mean, there's a big philosophy in national tenants bringing their colors in versus everybody's got to be red and white. Does Macedonia zoning also endorse that? I
So,
didn't read that in your zoning ordinances, but I obviously did read the landlords.
yeah, there's a, so this is a,
I'm
this
wondering
is,
what our likelihood is that Macedonia is going to care as much as the landlords.
Macedonia, my guess is that the city will probably care. They have in the past. This book here that I'm holding up is at least what I've compiled in 11 or 12 years of working with the city. All of the various retail plazas that have separate criteria that the property owner has brought forward and got approved by the city planning commission. Macedonia Commons, the gentleman referenced Macedonia Commons, that's a separate criteria, has separate requirements. The city treats outlots different than, in most cases they treat outlots different than the strip plazas, and they have different criteria, different sign heights, colors and things. So, you know, it's possible that the property owner could request that amendment and bring that to the planning commission. That's typically requested through the mayor's office and then comes to the commission.
So,
Because you do have national tenants, like Dunkin' Donuts right down the street doesn't have a red Dunkin' Donuts
Different
sign.
plaza. This is.
No, I understand.
how about Fifth Third Bank, though? Fifth Third Bank is here at blue. Is blue okay as one of the colors?
It's not.
It's not?
Mm-mm.
I see that, I see
Only
them on.
Alexandria Square, though, the red and white, right? Or is there the whole city?
No, there's like Macedonia Commons is again, I'd have to go back to each individual one, but so for instance in Macedonia Commons, there's sign criteria for the miscellaneous stores, so that's like the strip plaza, if you will. In there, the sign faces are supposed to be red and the raceway color white to match the background. Now, I believe that was changed in maybe 2015. I could tell you that in a second, I think. Because the property owner came in and requested an amendment, and the commission did amend that.
Yeah, it was back over, I think it was 14.
14 or 15, yeah. I'd have to look that date up. And they amended it to allow a second color.
Which the mayor is going back to him, denying that.
It's actually in the criteria now for the
Conference
commons,
came in
so.
for a change,
Yeah.
and they had to meet the requirement. They changed theirs to meet the requirements.
So we actually, in Alexandria Square with the bank, we have a building that's been there for quite a while, not conforming with their sign requirement.
Yeah, I don't know when, how, why that got approved.
Doesn't make sense.
They're a national chain, that's probably the
Yeah.
reason.
Well,
We don't make a distinction about it.
Well, I know they don't, but they did. You see.
oh, that's how they did it, it was a national.
Well,
Don't start quoting things we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, right?
Exactly.
So course of action, not to tie you up to the whole meeting. Can we ask this board to approve this?
No.
So,
We can't approve it.
okay, so that was just. that was a yes
No, we
or
don't
no.
want to, we can't.
Okay. So we need to leave this meeting regardless and go talk to the landlord. Either come back through the BZA
that might be.
with the landlord's, or the landlord come back and amend
Right.
their signage, which would come back to this board.
Through the mayor.
You guys would, through the mayor, and they would need to
Right,
approve
right,
it
right, right.
through a different process other than this evening. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I don't know what your landlord owns in Alexandria Square, if they own the whole development or just this
There's
building.
things I gotta go figure out.
Yeah, I don't know that answer either, so.
So do you mean like tractor trailers, that everything all the way down, that was all sold off as sublots? some parcels.
And they're
or
all-
in just the one strip.
So I'm not sure when Sears came about in comparison to Alexandria Square, but
Pretty much to begin.
It was the original.
it was the
I think
original.
it was.
Well, who's
Sears was
asking
original,
What do
yeah.
you consider just Alexandria Square, just the 39,000 square foot? Or there were all parcels that were part of the plot, that were part of the property that was sold off?
Those out parcels are all part of Alexandria Square.
I'm 95% sure they're not all red.
Subway, is it?
No, I mean, even in tractor trailer.
Yeah, Subway's yellow.
Yellow and green, yeah.
Parts America was red.
Parts and supplies.
It's a technicality right now that you guys gotta work out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yep, I'm good.
telling you what the black and white criteria are.
These guys told me I was allowed no variances, so I thought I'd be a slam dunk.
So is it go
Nothing.
to the mayor's
It's like you said,
office?
you have the parking
A
lot.
request to amend would go to the mayor's
That's why
office.
we have to do what we have to do.
You got a pretty good argument, though, I think, with
Then
this
it's,
thing.
then the commission has to approve any sort of amendment.
And then so they can't, nothing can be done with signage until.
No, I mean, Fifth Third is a blue, and
Or
that's
you
illegal.
put it in red
How did they get it?
lettering.
Okay, we can't do anything else today.
All right, someone's make a motion to table.
Make motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Right,
Well, we would not have
Sure.
So if.
Well, this
We have to
one I-
follow the rules.
I don't know.
If the landlord requests to change for that, I'm not sure if it goes to the mayor's office, I mean, there's a chance that it will get revoked and it won't happen. So the problem is, I wouldn't make a sizable investment for that signage. I mean, we're a national chain also, there's.
I don't know if that has anything to do with
across the country. So,
Mhm.
you know, what scares me now is like if I try to start the development to open, which I could open, you know, people up till the end of this year, but if I have to go through the mayor's office and then back through here, the sign guy can't, obviously can't do the sign, so.
Yeah, I think the request to the mayor's office is more of a request to get onto the agenda to amend something that was approved through the mayor's office originally. So it came through the mayor's office, but actually approved by the planning commission. So it's more of to get to the planning commission regarding this particular issue, you gotta go through the mayor's office.
Not the Board of Zoning Appeals.
That could be if they choose to appeal the requirement.
Oh, I see, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. But if you want to change the color palette, you just have to make that request through the mayor's office, and then the mayor would put that onto the planning commission's agendas.
Well, it also sounds like the size would be an issue, is that?
The size
It is.
definitely is.
It is, so you could go for variance regarding size, you could reduce the size to comply with the requirements, the property owner could request a bigger size. Those are some things you could do.
I'm sorry, just the frustration was, you know, we've waited 6 weeks, and this is the first we've heard about any of this, where, you know, the sign company said, okay, this is all in accordance with everything. The landlord approved the sign plans with
Yeah.
with an email and everything, and then here we think it's just, that's cut, you know, that's as simple as can be.
Right.
Now, it sounds like it's gonna be, that would be a multi, two-month process, I mean, how, you know.
I mean, it just depends on which route you go, it doesn't need to take that long, but
But there's no guarantee that I would.
there's no guarantee. Yeah, there's no guarantee.
Because the letters on the sign would have to be 18 inches, not even 18 inches, because there's an uppercase and lowercase.
Mm-hmm.
So they would literally be 12 inches tall on a facade that is 140. It's huge.
I think I read in signage though, you can cut off the Y sign
Yeah.
part of the
Mhm,
thing.
you can.
Still,
Mhm.
Yeah, but I get you, you're still small
Where did you read that?
in the zoning. With measurements, sign measurements. I was coming in without variance. I didn't read it, I just didn't know there was an underlying.
Yeah,
That incidental letter, yeah, you can.
it helped the other one.
So overall, what your thoughts are, you think that could get approved? I mean, what just concerns me if I do try to go forward. Because, I mean, literally, the whole project could linger on the side.
Yeah, I don't have a sense for that. I'm just telling you what the black and white requirements are. That's up to the commission.
Oral, or as soon as possible.
The landlord supposedly has been communicating with the landlord.
You communicate with the mayor to start with. And
I
see
spoke to
what
the
fix it. Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I'd suggest reach out to the mayor tomorrow and begin the process.
But it's not, he could execute in a timely manner.
Well, at least you can begin the process and get a feel for what he may or may not be supportive
He doesn't
of.
want to be buildings either, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry. Yes, thank you.
Next item, Thomas Transport, proposed approval of parking trucks at parcel 433-015 Irving Drive.
Good to see everybody again.
Hello.
right.
Back for round two. All right, so I guess before we dig into the generic picture, we got a letter from Michigan Valley Engineering, just going to planning over there, so you guys probably all got a copy of this letter. Okay. So I guess my first question is, it says hard surfaces.
Well, let's, before you jump into that, we need to either get that to the record or, need to get it out, get the information that's in that memo out there. So I guess some things have transpired since the last time you were in.
Yes.
Why don't you give an overview of what that has been?
Okay, so last time we were here, it was HBK, I think, and suggested that we go to the zoning board to get variances that we were asking for from the planning board. So we go to the zoning board and receive variances, this is the letter, for to do a gravel or that was variance request number 563, I believe. No, 562, which the code calls for surface lot to become hard surface. And we asked it to be gravel or regrinds, which regrinds are basically asphalt from roads that are getting redone. And it adheres very well with kind of onto a hard surface, so it's a good alternative. And we were granted that, number 562, we were granted that zoning variance. Second one was 563, which we asked for a 50-foot setback, because we weren't building a building where trucks were moving in and out all the time. It's not like they're sitting there doing nothing. It's a continual movement of our trucks going in and out. So 563 was, we asked for a 50-foot setback instead of a 100-foot setback, which is typically for buildings. And I guess the rule is, if it's a parking area, it's only a 20-foot setback that's needed, but we still agreed to a 50-foot setback so that we could do the curtain in front of it, off the road a little bit, and kind of block the whole roadside. So, to my knowledge, both variances were approved, voted on, and approved that night with the zoning board. So,
Were there any that were denied, or were those the only two variances you were asking for?
yeah, those are only two that I was asking for. So, we were approved. So I guess we can jump forward then to the letter I received a week ago. That everybody has a copy of, it came from Michigan Valley Engineering. So once those were approved, we figured we'd come back here and see what kind of screening the planning board would want to have on the road to, whether it's trees or shrubs or whatever to block the view of the road. So that's what we thought we were going to come back and talk about, and read the letter, and it talks about, first of all, I'll just read it. It says, Hard surfaces are typically required for driveways and parking areas developed at this site. The truck parking was proposed will require design and installation of stormwater management as per chapter 920. No stormwater management has been shown on the submittal, which is true. Additionally, compliance with the variance setback as per chapter 923 is required. Neither of these items have been shown or accounted for on the submitted plan, which is true. So I cannot recommend this plan approving the board. So basically, my big key was the zoning, getting the 2 variances. We were granted that. So now, with Mr. Lobinger, we are putting together a purchase agreement, which should be executed this week. I have 120 days to do the water drainage, to do any phase 1 I want to do any of the testing. So the other one with the, also at the end of the Clean Water Act. So to see if there's any wetlands in the area that's taken up that property that won't be usable for what we want to use it for. So the important one for me was the zoning, to get the variances. So like I said, we got those. My plan was to come here, see what else the board wanted. Screening, I know. Okay, we check the wetlands, we need to check the drainage. I will probably even do a phase 1 on it, just make sure it's been vacant land for 30+ years. So there's been some activity on it, but never been a building built on it. So I'm going to move forward to try to purchase it and do the required testing of land that the city wants and that I want. Benefits all of us to get that done.
If I remember right, I think there were some other issues, one being that, you can't just have a parking lot without a business or a building. Go ahead.
They approved that also.
Okay.
At the
There was
meeting.
additional.
I think that's in the language with,
It's in the language, and I don't know about the minutes, I haven't looked at the
I don't have
minutes.
a copy of it, so I can't tell you exactly what it said.
But Mrs. Haydock at the time
I
said,
don't have a copy.
this is a perfect place to have nothing but truck parking because of what it is, and she's the one that made that comment. And that was agreed upon, that there would not be a building on there because it has to do with, the trucks aren't being parked there, they're being moved in and out, per se. And they approved that also. And the screening that was there was also brought up, and that's going to be mounted. So there won't be anything shown from the road, and that's all.
Do you have beyond what your memo said?
No, nothing beyond my memo. I was going to read it, but you did the honors for me, so thank you.
Brian, do you have any?
I wasn't sure what I was looking at, to be truthful with you, and now I have a better understanding of hearing this. So it sounds like the applicant, I remember you being here some time ago, and so they marched forward and went to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and it sounds like they got a bunch of variances, and so they need to come back to the commission, illustrate those variances on a plan, and then the commission needs to look at the request and approve it with conditions, or deny it. So that's, I think it sounds like where they're at.
Is there anything else that might come up besides what's on this letter that we received? Is there something else that?
Obviously, the next step, I think for us would be the landscaping and how it's going to be.
Right. So in a very generic way, I tried to show that here. The dots would be trees placement, and I don't know if we want to do, pines that grow quickly and spread out. They're really, we were going to talk 6 to 8 foot pines, line the entire property line with all pines. Because it's usually the best screening.
I would say, so again, Mr. Westbrook, you would ask me if I would say that, you would want to have an actual landscape plan drawn up by a landscape architect and not just dots on a map.
Well, again, this is, it says generic, and, you know, I didn't want to put a bunch of money in this.
So are you
That's the
looking,
zoning.
yeah, are you looking for direction on landscaping from
Yes.
the planning
So this is
commission?
kind of a directional, okay, what are you guys gonna be looking
Okay.
for, so we can provide it?
Typically, it's done the other way. And so you hire a landscape architect who puts together a screening plan. They submit a plan to the municipality, and we review that.
Okay?
And then we'll provide comments. It could be a great plan, it could be, you know, it could be something that we say, well, you know, it's a little sparse, you need this. I would say in general, pines are good. You want to have a mixture of deciduous and coniferous species. So you want a mixture of pines and hardwoods is typically what the commission has looked at in the past on other landscape plans. In this case, you're looking for screening, primarily screening trees. So pines are really good. You don't want to line just a whole row of pines though, because what happens if you get a disease for a particular species and it'll wipe them all out. So you want to alternate. I always encourage you to alternate different types of species. And those are things that a landscape architect would advise you on.
Can I ask a question, Brian? When was that variance approved? When did you get that? You said you got a date on it or something.
Page 16.
Well, why wouldn't our board know about it? Why don't we know precisely
gonna
what
ask
it
the
is?
same
Probably
question.
my fault. I need to talk to Rachel about that.
Can I make a comment?
It's written somewhere, isn't it?
Wouldn't be a bad idea, based on the plan you have. I think that has to be brought up to date, okay, with what you're going to do.
Sure.
Showing bounding, landscaping, whatever the paved areas, whatever is not paved is going to be shown. I would put some notes on that plan too, referring to your approval, your variance approvals. That way there's no question as to why we're doing what, okay? That clarifies plans a lot sometimes.
Okay.
Just referencing letter dated such and such, we got approval to do this. Letter dated such and such, approval to whatever.
Yeah,
And
You
then we-
know, that way everything's right there, you don't have to have 15 sheets of
Completely
paper.
concur.
An unpaved line or something.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I should get a copy of those, of the notes, the minutes. I don't know
Yeah.
how I go about doing that.
Are the minutes
If you
finished?
if you call up there, we can get you the minutes.
Okay.
The building.
I requested those minutes already,
You did?
yes.
Okay, did she give them back to you?
No, because I've been out of town and they weren't ready when I left because they haven't been approved. And I think they were approved last week or whenever you had the
Yes, that's
last,
probably why I don't have the information yet, because
when
the
the
minutes
last
were
zoning
approved.
board meeting was. I don't know when that was. I have a recording of the meeting, but I could not get a copy, which is just the way it's supposed to be, of the minutes until they were approved. And I was told that they would be approved, and when I came back, like today, I didn't have enough chance to go over and get them, and I had
This
the,
was the last meeting, so the
Yeah,
minutes
last
will be
meeting.
approved
Hasn't
until
been one.
this comes Wednesday, they'll be
You-
approved.
What if we could get a
Does that
copy
make
of
sense?
Mark, yeah.
Can you mark them draft?
Yeah, you guys can draft minutes, see if you can sign up with that.
I can see, yeah.
And then the applicant can go, if you mark them draft, the applicant can listen to this tape, you know, and then concur or not concur with those minutes, and then make application back here to the commission. I completely agree, Mr. Chabon, to add notes on your plan, but I do think you probably need to have, this is probably the time where you need to spend a few dollars and have a professional plan drawn
Sure,
up,
sure.
because it sounds like you got past a major hurdle, you got it approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right.
Now you need to perform.
Sure.
And performing means acquiring a landscape architect, putting together a plan. The Board of Zoning Appeals cannot waiver stormwater requirements, so you still have those you have to follow.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's understood.
You still have those you'll have to follow. But it sounds like you got a big hurdle that you overcome already, and now you just need to take it across the finish line and prepare a plan for this commission to review for screening and compliance with the other requirements.
Okay, so on that hurdle, so when I read this letter from Sugar Valley, typically, it says typically required for driveways is hard surface.
Yeah.
Got a very
Can this board,
It's already done.
It's already done.
We have no say-so on it.
I can't speak for Chagrin Valley, but my guess is he didn't know that there was a variance issued.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know now.
Yeah, now you
That
know.
supersedes everybody here.
Okay, I just want to make sure, like, somebody can't take it away and say.
We didn't, no one here.
Variance is good as gold as long as you perform.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Mr. Thomas, along those lines, it sounds like you're going to have an architect prepare a landscape plan.
Right.
And I don't know if you're considering hiring a surveyor or an engineer, or if you go through your architect to have somebody show all of these items on the plan. There's a creek, certainly what appears to be a creek that cuts across the northerly corner of the property.
Right.
And you certainly would need an engineer to do the calculations for the stormwater detention pond or
Yeah, I've already got
whatever.
numbers for people to do all this stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Like,
Good.
Once
Yeah.
we finish our business, I have 120 days to get it all done, make sure we don't
Got
have any
it.
issues, and back here.
Yeah, that's great. I just hate for you to continue to do the hand sketch and,
Yeah.
go at it alone, and we have to keep telling you this is insufficient,
Well, sure.
so.
But again, I didn't want to put a ton of money into it until
Sure.
I got the first variance, which were the important ones.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a big hurdle.
Is there going to be any signage?
and there would maybe just be an entrance sign, like a small one at the entrance right here. So, and the other problem with the building is because you can't build underneath those high wires. It's just, so it's very difficult with that high shape to really put anything on it of any significance that's you can really use. It's a tough property.
You would want to just include that sign in your package. wouldn't you?
Sure.
Well, parking is allowed, there's easements on that high tension line. Mr. Thomas will own that property underneath the high tension line. That's not owned by any power company. There's an easement for that power line to be on that property.
So, quick question, who's the parking for? Is it one organization or two or three?
It's my company. We have.
Just your company?
Right.
Okay.
We have currently about 80 pieces of power and 130 trailers currently. So we're just jammed back
I
there.
took a ride back there the other day and
On a weekend? If you went on a weekend, it's really.
No, it was on a weekday, but it was all trucks back there.
On a weekend, they're stacked on top of each other. And
I could see why you need some room.
Yeah, and I wanted to redo my driveway for years, but the guys park on the asphalt on weekends, and I don't want to replace the driveway until we don't have to do that anymore. 80,000 pounds will put a lot of cracks in the asphalt.
So I have one other question that's probably got nothing to do with this, just for me and my ignorance. What are riparian setbacks? Say it in your notes.
Yeah, riparian setback is a part of the code meant to protect. It's a water quality and a water quantity protection part of the code. Basically, it prevents development or work from taking place too close to a stream or a creek.
Is that what it is? And that's the setback you were talking about, 50 feet or?
That's different.
That's a different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a different setback.
This is a setback from the road.
Okay.
This is the other.
You know,
You got
you
the
wouldn't park the
variance.
trucks any closer than 50 feet from the road.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But he's going to mound them, and I think one of the questions tonight was starting that mound at 25 feet from the road edge, right?
Right, yeah, the plan was, once we figure out which way all of the grading needs to go and get the flow of water to go where it's supposed to go, there'll be a lot of excess dirt there, and that's all gonna go towards the front. Probably get a 5 or 6 foot mound, and then we put the 8-foot trees on top of that. And right away, you've got a curtain nobody can see back there, nobody's gonna notice it unless you're driving down 271.
What's your tallest equipment?
13,
13?
13.6.
I think that means something on his landscape plan,
Mhm.
whether it's 25 feet from the road or 50 feet.
That's a good question.
And there's a lot, there's, even the city down at the service garage on Valley View, that's like 25 feet. The new development over at where the church is on, well, that's Valley View over there also. That mounding is like 25 feet from the road. And the same way with a couple of the other new developments, a couple of years ago.
I think as long as you're out of the right of way, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
the important thing is,
Yeah.
it's outside the right of way and, not obstructing the ditch or anything.
Yeah, generally, the grading plan would show the mounting to begin just behind the right-of-way.
Okay.
Would be
All right, that's-
typical of how most properties
Okay.
would be developed.
All right, that's fine.
And that's where.
Yeah, that's what we were asking.
Sure.
Okay, that's fine, right behind the right of way.
You could push it back further if you choose to.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, you could push it back further, but we generally don't or can't allow the mounting in the public right-of-way.
Right.
The benefit of pushing it back further, if you're going with a species that's, thick in terms of cover, landscape species, is as you pull up to make turning movements, your sight distance is impaired if it's too close to the road right away. It can be impaired, so pushing it back off the road is not a bad thing.
Well, that's why I think 25 feet would be plenty.
Yeah, I mean, if that
That's
gives
a
you
pretty
plenty
big
of
pine
parking,
Standing out 25 feet.
yeah, if it gives you enough room
That's
for your
100-year-old
parking,
pine.
it's fine.
Yeah, as long as you got the free parking in, yeah, like Brian says, have architects or somebody look at to make sure you've got good visibility.
Right.
Traffic.
So the motion now would be to table pending final,
I think you already have that motion, right? You tabled this plan.
Last.
We haven't taken it on this table here. I think you rescinded it.
We rescinded it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
But has he made application?
Yes.
That's what I was unclear about. Have they made application or did they request a review of variances?
They were just here gathering information first time they came, so we really didn't have anything to.
We've paid twice.
We don't want to miss that.
We've each paid once.
Yeah,
We paid for all the meetings.
yeah.
First we tabled.
They just pulled their
Yeah, they're looking
application
at
at
Mm.
their time.
I don't think we took any action the first time because they were just here gathering.
Yeah.
Because there was
information.
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
Application.
the zoning had to give the approval of the pavement, et cetera, the
Right.
building.
So there was nothing we could
The
actually.
Board of Zoning Appeals, yeah.
Right.
So it seems appropriate then to table it.
Make that motion. I did make that motion to table. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next time.
Good job.
Good. All right, so we can just work out the same application then next time?
Yes.
Pay a third time. Pay one more time.
We should be getting some money back for all the hours, or less hours.
We gotta pay Susan.
I know.
So how can we get over those again?
Well, we have to wait till they approve the minutes, and I believe that's gonna be this Wednesday. As soon as they're approved and she prints them out, then your request will be fulfilled, and then I can get it to everybody, but I can't get it to everybody until it's approved.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and
I'll
gentlemen.
give you that.
Thank you.
Sign.
Rachel, okay, Rachel.
Not Rachel. Okay, thank you.
Last issue is Liberty Valley Church sign, which you're not here. Looks like no one's here, but I don't know, we talked about it a lot last time. Kind of looks like they can do what you want, but
Oh, yeah, that's not a simple one.
I know in the past, sometimes we've said, hey, if you're not here, we don't look at it, but then other times, it's relatively simple.
If you don't have any questions.
So, quickly going over, we had asked them to put the signs together, make them match. It looks like that's what they are, some very basic graphics, but that's what they're attempting to do here. Brian, did you have any other comments on Liberty Valley Church?
No, I mean,
I think they complied with.
my intent, I didn't want to, my intent, or the intent is that it's all one sign, so if they push them right on top of the other one, I guess technically that's one sign. If they butt right up, it's technically two signs.
That's kind of what we did. That's what they're showing. City tire down there, and we let them butt it up.
So if that's been the, if that's acceptable, then yeah, I don't see any reason why it can't be approved at this time.
Anybody have any questions on this?
off-street parking.
Were we all here when they were here before?
I might not. I don't think I was.
You don't think you were?
Well, when was it? Last August, I wasn't here in
Let me
August.
quickly go over, they wanted to have two signs. They've got the existing Liberty Village Church sign up on the side of the building.
Yeah.
They wanted to put this eviction meetings here Friday, 7 p.m., and they had shown it down the building farther, so separate. They only have one sign on one side.
Oh.
And the area itself I think is okay, but there's the number of signs that's the problem. So we said, why don't you put it together, make it one sign.
I mean, with their language down below the Liberty Value, just like they have, just all one big sign, yeah. So that's okay. I go along with it.
So did you guys understand that? Were you here for?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So it looks like their plan is to make it one sign.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it as long as it matches. Yeah, I know they're doing this, their proposal here on the sheet just to show it, but I would, I would be okay with it as long as the signs and colors.
You gotta say that as long as.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
Motion or something?
Make a motion to approve it as long as the colors match and it's one sign. I could.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Are we going to make it one sign or a budding sign?
Oh, I said one. I thought it was one sign.
This is, we make a,
That means they would have to replace the existing sign also.
I would be okay if it was like,
Attached.
if it really matched up well, the way City Tire did those Herchics at the time, where the
Right.
signs, the boxes matched up exactly the same size, they matched, it's flush from top to the bottom, they were physically attached to each other.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, putting them up against each other like that.
Attached, one sign or
Amended to
attached,
say-
or
no,
attached.
Say that it presents the appearance of being one sign.
All right, I'll amend it to say that, the appearance of
I
one sign.
withdraw my second.
With the appearance.
Now you agree with it.
Colors match and the appearance of one
Being
sign.
one sign.
Being one sign, yeah.
Want to tie it down a little bit more, saying same dimensions, basically the same dimensions, lengthwise.
Is that on the drawing?
Well, they're showing the dimension to be the same.
He shows it, but, yeah, no. Is that,
Yeah, that's, they have to make it, they have to
Okay.
make it that size.
okay, all right.
That's what the.
Well,
I don't want them to come back and say,
To make, assuming that it's gonna be 10 feet by 8 feet total, and that's what.
Gotta put it
Tie it
in.
down.
I guess we're signing this plan.
There you go, there you go, right.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Don't leave until we sign something.
That's for our outdoor storage.
No, I
you
just-
got-
Oh, I
that's
forgot.
the official.
I forgot, you gotta sign this.
That's well for the businesses storing goods. So this ties back to all general industrial codes, including, yeah, ties back to limited industrial.
Incident, it's just a
Limited
20.
industrial says all activity,
Thing on there.
operations, and storage for.
When you say sign it, I've been printing mine out instead of signing. That's not an issue.
Not an issue.
Accessory off-street parking.
Okay, this one.
Trucks and other motor
Put your name
vehicles
on it.
used
Put an
as-
X on it, put an X on it.
Fingerprints,
There
Turn of the century, people couldn't even write.
Off-street parking.
An X was
Right,
missing.
in school anymore, so a lot of kids
How do you
can't
sign
sign
your
it.
name, your document?
We're gonna teach them.
All right, so we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, great.
Very good, very good.
Oh, did they give her that? Okay.
I'm here during the day, 7:30 to 4.
So what do you?
Yeah, absolutely, just go up to the building department.
I don't see him that often. I know he's been, did you play with Ernie Kellerman?
No, I didn't play with her.
Ernie's known since he was seventh grade, so.
That, the BZA can make that interpretation. You said that those trucks and trailers. I see where's the appeals to.
Yeah, I'm not. Black and white. And I don't even have.
You got some problems there. That's what I said, again, I'm not by any means looking for more things to do, but it does surprise me that I've only done these 2 reports in 12 years. They haven't really had much guidance. And that's, and I can tell you that I come from school thought that next part of not a good, because they don't want to strict scrutiny of those laws. The problem is, and I've said this 100 times to the previous meeting, we need to put that in the zoning code. We need to put the Duncan Middlefield standards. We need to make a very clear distinction between dimensional variances and use variances.
Right now, he's.
Never proved it. Right.
So if we don't know this, we'd be hard pressed because we don't have the standards in the code.
He always was, but now he's very, kind of like a basic.
Right, and they gave that variance. Right, and that's bad, they shouldn't.
Gentlemen, take care.
Well, no, not for everybody else, because variances aren't precedents.
On the other hand, I've been
So
places
next
where
time.
they can purple. Oh,
Oh, that's what,
Oh, there you go, look at that, all right.
Why not?
That's nice.
oh, yeah.
But I didn't know that, the minutes weren't approved yet for BZA, so I didn't have it formally written up, because that's gonna be approved this Wednesday.
Right, so you're kind of, you're not. So my assistant,
go in, then because of
my assistant said the same thing. She doesn't generally do, we don't meet very often, the BZA and
Right, where it's not together.
So you kind of, just like anything, out of sight, out of mind, right? You've got a million other things you're doing, and so these minutes are the last thing you think about. You don't have another meeting for quite a while. That's fair, so you can write them up, and I think it's completely fine to stamp a draft, stamp each page draft.
But I don't do the BZA, Rachel does.
Oh, Rachel, then
Yeah.
I hate when somebody.
yeah, I think she can write them up in draft format and give them to them.
And it's all
That's the next
documented,
time.
what they need to do.
Bring them up a draft form, stamp them so that I can too.
Yeah.
Look at BZA
Yeah.
before.
Come back.
And what's important is.
So I know what was approved.